Turkey. Right? At yung Republic of Turkey na ito, for a long, long time, it was domained by the Ottoman Empire for about 600 years. So the Ottoman Empire used to domain the Republic of Turkey. That the name before was not Turkey, but it was in the Bible, it is called Asia. And then later on, it is called Asia Minor. But then actually, the reason it is called Asia Minor, specifically talking of the Republic of Turkey, because Asia is a very broad sense and it's a very broad world. Yeah. China is Asia also. There are other parts of Asia. And so we see here in number 1, here, that the gospel spreads in Asia for about after the domain of the Ottoman Empire. Under Ottoman Empire, it was spearheaded by the Mehmed. The kings, they were called Mehmed 1 to 4. They were called Sultan. And then Murad 1 to 3. These are all Sultan. And Mustafa 1 and 2. And this Ottoman Empire lasted for about 600 years that they have dwelt in Asia, who was then called the Ottoman Empire, not yet Asia. And of course, there were conquering of the lands, the various part of lands. You will see that this Asia, today in our present map, we have this one in our present map. Yeah, okay. You will mark where is Asia. If you can find the Black Sea, that is also the Balkan. Then you will see this Istanbul. It used to be Byzantium during the time of Constantine, yeah, the Constantine the Great, and it was called Byzantium or Constantine. And then today, in the modern world, this is now called Istanbul. And this is Ankara. As you can see, Ankara. And this is Izmir and Anatolia. So Izmir, Anatolia, and this is Borza. This one above here, this is Borza. And this used to be the places where the Ottoman Empire had domain for about 600 years. And of course, it's facing the Balkans. So whenever you see the Black Sea, you are going to see the Balkans. And that domain of the Ottoman had included the western side of the world, which was, you know, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Bucharest, Belgrade, and Romania, Moldova. They were all part of the Ottoman Empire. Yes. As you can see, that whenever you see Turkey, which is now officially called the Republic of Turkey, and it used to be called the Ottoman Empire, and then it was then later on changed into Asia, but then specifically it is called Asia Minor. We will be reading Asia Minor in Revelation chapter 1 verse 11. The letters, the 7 letters to the churches of Asia. Yeah, so this is whenever you see the Black Sea, the Aegean Sea, the Caspian Sea. Yeah. So if you are going to see Caspian Sea, you will be noticing a new name, rather an ancient name before. And that was called Pontos Ifkinos. It was Pontos Ifkinos Marmara. That's the word for sea. And all right, so that yeah, you will read here the Republic of Turkey. And I mentioned in Revelation 1 verse 11, the letters to the 7 churches in Asia. See, as you can see, the big word Asia. And then that is specifically because Asia is so wide, so broad. So this is Asia Minor, which is the Republic of Turkey. Yeah. And it was used to be called during the time of Constantine. For Constantinople, it was called Byzantium, Constantine, or Constantinople. And the 7 churches mentioned, they are here. These were the churches in Thyatira, in Pergamum, in Sardis, in Philadelphia, in Smyrna, in Ephesus, in Laodicea. Yeah, these are the 7 churches that have been mentioned here. And then the work of Paul the Apostle, of his writings, because as you can see, Paul is from Tarsus. Tarsus used to be the domain of the Roman Empire. And Paul's family, they were Jews, and whoever would own a land in Tarsus, they will be given the citizenship, Roman citizenship, so that they will have a Roman citizenship. Tarsus is the place where Paul was born. And together with the birthplace Tarsus also was the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin also is from Tarsus. Yeah. As you can see, Paul had been preaching into various places, and you will see there are 2 Antioch here. Here is the Antioch of Syria, this specific Antioch, where the followers of the way, the believers who were called before followers of the way, because Jesus used to be called the way, and all his followers or disciples, they were first baptized in the name of Christian in Antioch. Antioch of Syria. So you have to remember there is an Antioch of Syria and there is an Antioch here in Pisidia, the Pisidian Antioch. So you have to be able to distinguish which Antioch it is referring to. And as you can see, we have here an island that is called Cyprus. And Cyprus has 2 other islands, which is Salamis and Paphos. And here is another island called Crete. And the other word, ancient name for Crete is Kittim. And Kittim used to be spelled as Chittim, which means to say acacia or ebony. Yeah, Kittim of Crete. And under Crete, Paul had traveled in the Fair Havens harbor, and there is Salmone and Lasea and Phoenix. There is also Rhode Island, and Paul went to Patara. This is Sinidos Island, during the journey of Paul. And this is Kos Island, and this is Patmos Island, where John the Beloved had the revelation received. This is an Aegean Sea, and this is Sparta. The gladiators from Sparta are called Spartacus. But the Spartacus, they were the gladiators. The gladiators, if they would win the battle, the Romans would give them their freedom and citizenship of Rome. Yeah, this is Zenchrea, and this is Achaia. We will be seeing Adriatic Sea or Epheros, and this is Delphi and Corinth. And we have here Athens, which is the capital of Greece. And Greece had the name this Macedonia. Macedonia was a town under the city or the province city of Greece. And of course, in Macedonia, Paul traveled to Philippi, Neapolis, Amphipolis, Apollonia, Berea, and here is, of course, in Macedonia, you will have Mount Olympus. Okay, who is from Macedonia? It was the Alexander the Great or Alexander the First, the son of, what's this one? He was the son of Philip. Philip the Second, King Philip the Second, who was the king of Macedon, and also this King Philip the Second, he married Olympus, and they have a son called Alexander. He was called Alexander the Great, Alexander the First, because this King Philip the Second, he married 7 women, but among the 7 women, he had only 2 sons to the 2 women, and 1 son died, except Alexander. Yes, so the letters here, we can see in the letters. So you will read that in the book of Revelation. Let's read Revelation chapter 1. And let's read it so that you will see how important this Asia. Revelation chapter 1 verse 11. And it says here that it is said, you write down what you see. This is God's revelation to John the Beloved, while John was in Patmos. John was a prisoner here in the island of Patmos. It's a separate island. And that God said to John the Beloved, you write down what you have seen, and then you send the book or the letters to the churches in these 7 cities. He mentioned first, it was Ephesus. Yeah, this is Ephesus. Next into Smyrna, that is Smyrna. Then to Pergamum, that's Pergamum above, below the Mysia, and above Thyatira. Yeah, Pergamum. And then below Pergamum is Thyatira. Below Thyatira is Sardis. And then on the other side, below Asia is Philadelphia. And the last one, under the name Ephesus, is Laodicea. These are the 7 churches which God revealed what are the strength of the churches and what are the defects What was that God was revolted of against the churches? So they have good points and they also have wrong points, as we can see that. All right, going back into this lesson, we can see that Paul made his headquarters or base for missions in Ephesus for about 3 years. You will be reading that in Acts 19, 1 to 7. And that time, the gospel preaching spreads throughout Asia. In Acts chapter 19, the continuation of verse 7 is 8 to 20. And from there, you will see an arrow that will be pointing here from Ephesus. Okay, so if you have this one in Ephesus and it is pointing that arrow into here, he went to Troas. Okay, there. Number pointer 2, Paul plans to go to Macedonia. Macedonia is already an English name, but during that time, it was called Macedonia. Hindi Macedonia, Macedonia. That was a town or a province of Greece. And he sends Timothy. The partner of Timothy was Erastus into Macedonia ahead. Acts chapter 19, verses 21 to 22. So after that, they would visit Corinth, in which you will read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 10 to 11. Paul is worried about the immorality at the church of Corinth. So that whenever there is division, whenever there is immorality, it proves of its carnality, of its being babes, and they are not matured. So that worried Paul very much about the letters that he was about to send through his messengers into Corinth. Then number 3, we will see the arrow from Corinth. Here is Corinth, where he sent his two men, Timothy and Erastus. In the church in Corinth, they brought the letter of Paul, 1 Corinthians 16, 17 to 18. And it is full of questions that reveal the problems to be far greater than what Paul had taught. So you will see Corinth and Synchrea. From there, they had to, Paul writes again and send the 1 Corinthians letter tackling the problems of Corinthian believers. Yeah, so it goes back. All right, that's number 4. You will see here the number 5. Paul had, here's the bad news about the church in Corinth. This is Corinth and this is Synchrea. All right, and possibly the bad news comes from his messenger Timothy. And number 6, he hurried to go to Corinth. It was implied that he intended the 3rd visit by the writings in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 14. The visit is extremely painful to everyone, especially to Paul, about the huge problem in Corinth. As you can see, the problems of the churches local, they are not just existing today, but thousands of years ago, they have already existed in various places, in various churches. Even as Paul had written his Corinthian epistle to the believers in Corinth. Yeah, number 7. He returns to Ephesus, and here he writes a painful letter which contains the 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 4. Titus took that letter or carried the letter to Corinth church. Paul arranged to meet Titus again at Troas urgently in order to get the good news of the situation. How was the response of the Corinthian believers to the letter of Paul to them? Number 8, Paul is the center of a riot in Ephesus. His message threatens the sale of statues of the Ephesian goddesses. Not only Ephesian goddess, which means to say a female god, but also other idols in Acts chapter 19, verses 23 to 41. Then as we can see, we are now in here that Paul went to Troas. This is Troas, and the work goes well, but Paul is worried about the painful letter that he had written. Was it too harsh? Titus does not appear as arranged according to 2 Corinthians 2:12 to 13. So what will happen from Troas, he had to travel to Macedonia, and here into Philippi and Neapolis. That Macedonia, Thessalonica is part of Macedonia, Philippi and Neapolis also. And then you will see that Paul enters in Macedonia in search of Titus. By doing this, he breaks an arrangement that he made with the Corinthians. He was going to go them by sea, visiting them by sea from Philippi, going directly into Macedonia. So he apologizes in his 2 Corinthians letter, chapter 1, verse 15 to chapter 2, verse 4. He did not want another painful visit. So he encouraged the churches in Acts 21 to 2, and then he collected the offerings of the believers in this place and from the churches for the charity and the help work to the famine which was existing in Jerusalem places, and especially the Jerusalem church, according to 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1 to 5. Then we will see Paul and Titus finally meet together because Paul was looking for Titus. Titus brings good news about the painful letter. He has been taken as Paul intended. 2 Corinthians 7, 5 to 16. So as we can see, there is what really called, even in those days, painful letters, painful rebuke, and painful correction. But whether believers and churches like it or not, Paul had to do that. He had to say that because that was the only way that the baby churches and baby believers or carnal believers would be corrected. And then we can see in here, this is Paul. He wrote the 2 Corinthians full of joy, where he was nearing Thessalonica. It was still in Macedonia. He encouraged them to complete their promise They're giving their tithes and offerings to the Jerusalem church because the Jerusalem believers need that. 2 Corinthians 8:10-15. Even thousands of years ago, the churches that suffered lack of supply, they were provided by the believers of Philippi. That's why there was a promise of Philippians 4:19. Yeah, that it had helped the needs of the believers that were suffering from famine in Jerusalem. Okay, so that it was a very long journey to give their offerings and tithes and help to Jerusalem church, even if it was so far. But Paul had to gather that offering so he could give them away to the Christians and would relieve the pain of suffering. Number 14, we have this arrow. Titus takes the letter ahead of Paul in order to prepare the church for the visit of Paul. And that is his visit into Corinth, in the Synchrea and Achaia. So Achaia, if you're going to take note, a map of Achaia looks like the finger of a human being. Yes. And Paul stays in Achaia for 3 months. They continued to write his letter in Corinth. Here he visited the Corinthian believers, and he had written his epistle to Rome in Corinth. All right, so that you can see that, no? Kaya if we are going to look at the way those letters had been written, we will find out how these letters had been written. For example, try to say that the book of Romans was written in Rome. Here, this is Rome, where you will see 3 taverns or 3 inns, and the Forum of Appius, Puteoli, and this is Italy. All right. You will see that the letter number 1 or epistle number 1 for Rome. Number 2, you will see the 1st and the 2nd Corinthians, they were written in Corinth. Yeah, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, they were written here in Corinth. And the book of Galatians, they were written here in Galatia. Number 4, the book of Ephesians, they were written in Ephesus. And the book of Philippians, they were written in Philippi. And Colossians, they were written in Colossae. Yeah, you have to find out where is Colossae. Okay. And then the letter 1st and 2nd letter to Thessalonians, it was here, written here in Thessalonica. The 1st and the 2nd Timothy, they were written in Ephesus. 1st and 2nd Timothy. And then the book of Titus, it was written in Crete, where Paul was in Crete. So this is Crete. Yeah. And then the book of Philemon, it was written in Colossae. Again, Colossae. So that's how it has been. This is the Paul's 3rd missionary journey. And then his final appearance to Rome, to the King Agrippa II. and to the governors in order to hear the preaching and the gospel, and in order to defend himself of the case that was rose up against him that was invalid. Yeah. All right. That's our lesson for the current and the Asia Minor. So let's see that this is the Asia Minor and the journey of Paul on this side. You will see Phoenicia. They were called by the Greek Phoenician, but they were used to be Palestine. Yeah. This is Damascus of Syria. And this is the map. This Tyre and Sidon. And under Phoenicia, there is the place Abilene. And the Tyre of Sidon, below that is called Ptolemy's, under the king of Egypt. That used to rule on this place. And then today it is called Akko, which is today Israel. And this is Caesarea, located in the Caesarea of Phoenicia. All right, because on this other side, there is also a Caesarea, but it is called Caesarea Philippi. All right, so this one is Caesarea. And his journey, these are all the places that Paul had traveled. Yeah, from Tarsus, he traveled into these places, and then back to Cilicia and to Galatia. Yeah, traveled Galatia, Cilicia, Issos, Aleppo, Ebla, Ciliosia. So this Cilicia is different than Ciliosia. So we have here the Pisidia of Antioch. Yeah, whenever you see Pisidia, you will see the second Antioch, Pisidia. Lycaonia and Iconium, it was called the province of Konya. Konya. So it was called Konya from the word Lycaonia and Iconium. Yes, Lystra and Derbe, Pisidia, Phrygia, into Chios. That's Troas, Assos, and Mytilene. And of course, here is the places like Atalia, Pamphylia, Perga. It is different than the word Pergamum. Right, Pergamum is one of the book that was sent to Pergamus. This one is Perga. And Sinidos is another island. Kos is another island. In all the shipwreck of Paul, you will be reading this, the Rhode Islands, the Cyprus, Salamis, Paphos, Crete, the Aegean Sea, yeah, and all of this. So you will see Achaia and Berea, part of Macedonia, Berea, Amphipolis, Philippi, Thrace, Neapolis, Apollonia, Samothrace, Thessalonica, and Mount Olympus, Epirus, and Adriatic Sea. Yeah. At so that we will have to learn about this Egypt, the Egyptian country. Yes. Okay, so before, the reason we have to study Egypt is because we have been studying archaeology, and there was in archaeology they have found a Rosetta Stone. Here is Rosetta Stone. It was called in the place Rosetta. All of these circles, brown circles, they were cities and capitals. Yeah, cities and capitals. And there was the Rosetta capital, and they have found there the Rosetta Stone, which was very important in the history of the science of archaeology. And this is Alexandria, the first capital of Egypt. Yeah. And of course, this is Tanis. As you can see, the blue thing here that is flowing like a tree that exits into Mediterranean Sea, and from Mediterranean Sea it enters into the Nile River. The Nile River used to be called the Delta. It used to be called Rahab Delta. And you will see the Heliopolis, the old capital of Egypt was Heliopolis. Polis means a city. And today, they transferred that capital of Egypt in Cairo. Remember that Egypt is Africa. And this is Giza, the Pyramid of Giza. And there you will see the great pyramids of Giza, 1, 2, 3. And there is the Sphinx and Bent Pyramid. Then you will see Saqqara and Dashur. And Memphis is another city. Saqqara is another city. Dashur is another city. Then this is Payom and Meidum, another city, Lahore, another city, Heracleopolis, another city, and the long thing here, the blue, is what we call the Nile River or the Delta. Yeah. Below that, you will see Beni Hassan. It used to be conquered by the Ottoman Empire. And here is Amarna, a place marked for the famous archaeological stones and writings from Amarna. And this is Hermopolis, Ashot, another city, Badari, another city, Kau, another city, Akmin, another city, Tenis, Abydos, they are cities, Dendera, and Karnak. Karnak and Thebes, they are opposite of Luxor. And there is the temple of Luxor and the tombs of Luxor. Then there is Nakada, the valley of the kings, and the temple of Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut, that's the valley of the kings, the temple of Ramses III, the temple of Horus, and this is Edfu and Hierakonpolis, and Kom Umbo, and this is Elephantine, the Elephantine Sea or river. There is an Aswan city, and Aswan is where you will see cataract. Cataract means waterfalls that flows in Aswan, and that's why this is called Elephantine River. Yeah. As you can see, it used to be what we call capitals. All of the cities that has been marked, they were all capitals of Egypt. And they were their trade and industry. So that's a blue thing of the Nile or Delta. And this is the Red Sea. Yeah, in that history. And this is Sinai Peninsula. This is the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea. below that was the Sodom and Gomorrah. That was a thing on this study. Okay, so you will see that the Egypt has more pyramids for their burials of their pharaohs, of their leaders, and they have sphinx. As you will see, they have oses. The trees, whenever you see a tree, they are marking an oses where they have like resort, where they have fruitful product, yeah, where they have a good places for themselves. And they were all owned by the pharaohs in those times. And there were several pharaohs for us to study. But you can see that this is the Mediterranean Sea, where it is called in the Revelation the Great Sea, all right, which is situated between Israel and Europe. Okay, so then this journey would help us understand the places where Paul had traveled. And I would like you to remember the first maps that we have studied. And I believe that it will help us to understand what is Turkey today. So Turkey today, this is not our Turkey today. This one is. Yeah, you can see I marked there the Republic of Turkey. And there's Pontos Efkenos, or the Efkeni Sea, the Black Sea, or the Balkan Sea. Yeah, the Mysia. And these are the places, including Macedonia, including Greece and Athens. It includes also the study on Syria here, Antioch, and then of course the study of the Ottoman Empire. After the Ottoman Empire, there was what called the Caliphate. The Muslim marched and took this place, and they have invaded the land. The Muslim led by their caliphates. The caliphates are the leaders of the Muslims. And then after that 600 years of Ottoman, and then after that another hundreds of years by the caliphate and the Muslim, comes the history of the Republic of Turkey. Yes. So you will see whenever you have Republic of Turkey, you must be able to find in its map. This is our present map. Yeah, you need to find where is Ankara. Istanbul is used to be called Byzantium or Constantinople. Yeah, and there is Borza, there is Izmir, and of course there is the Torsagan. It's called the river in their language. And below that, you will see Syria. On the other side, you will see Cyprus, and then you will see Lebanon and Beirut. And of course, this is Egypt. Alexandria is the capital of Egypt. Then below the other side of Syria is Baghdad, which is the part of Iraq. Yeah. And the capital is Baghdad. And then we have Iran on this side, which used to be in the Bible called Persia. And the capital of Iran is Iran. Yeah. Above Turkey or the Republic of Turkey or Asia Minor, you will be seeing the Russian domain. Yes, on that side. And then if you will understand Aegean Sea, Ionian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, they were people that have traveled at the side of, let's see, where is that side? Here. On this side, in order to conquer this side, which was called Palestine or Phoenicia, and they were called Philistines. The Philistines were sea people, they were pirates. Before, Philistines was not the original name of Philistines. Their original ancient name was Peleset. Yeah, Peleset. And they had a king called Merneptah in Ashkelon. See, on this side, there is, we call Philistine. Yeah. All right. So it's something for you to remember. You have to write the most important part where Paul had written 10 books of his letters or epistles for the new churches. And you will be able to see them from here. Yeah? Okay. And of course, your exam will be oral for the next time by God's grace. And that you are going to tell where are the 10 books or the 10 epistles that Paul had written in what places. And also the 7 books or the 7 letters to address to Asia in the book of Revelation, and what happened to Paul when he was in Rome. Yeah, why did Paul go to Macedonia? This is Macedonia. This one is included here. Supposed to be this is just one word. And it was separated when we made a bigger picture of this map of the Republic of Turkey or Asia Minor. Yes. Okay. So we have to close this into interaction. What have you learned? Do you have anything to ask about our study? The others will be studying in the YouTube. So it's okay. Yeah, those who are studying in YouTube. And those who are with me live, you can, there are other things here. You have your assignment, and your assignment is write the places where Paul went as apostle to the Gentiles. Number 2, you write his mission to the Galatians. Number 3, you write his mission to Greece. We are talking of Macedonia. Right. Then you write Paul had to travel to Jerusalem, and he was imprisoned, and he had to appeal before Caesar. Also, you have to be able to see how Paul do a troubleshooting of the various problems. Yeah. And also the storm and the shipwreck that Paul had experienced from what sea? Going to Rome. Yes. And so he came to Rome finally. That was the destination of Paul because he had been commissioned to go and appear and preach before the king. That was King Agrippa II. All right. So we will close this in prayer. We will request Emmeline to pray because he is on the other line.
Lord, we thank you for another study and journey with the Apostle Paul and his missions to the Gentiles. Thank you, Lord, for visiting us through this study in Bible geography. Help us, Lord, also to be ready to travel places where you want us to be. Thank you for the lessons we learned from the life of Apostle Paul and the early churches in this Asia Minor, places in Jerusalem, and also parts of Egypt that we have learned today. Thank you for blessing Ma'am Yoli, for her health and healing, and for the wisdom of all of us, even those who are in YouTube. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, God bless you. See you by God's grace, God willing, next week.